All right, so let's talk about your finals here. So the first thing is it is this coming Wednesday at 2 o'clock to 3:30 in CLA 116. It will cover chapter 7.4 and 7.5, 8.1 till 8.4 and 8.6. Yes, we do cover 8.6. There are around 10 to 12 questions in your finals. Some of the questions have A, B, C, D, some parts. You are allowed to use a graphing calculator and an oral scientific calculator. You can use both calculators if you want to. You are also allowed to use one front page note. So that's for everyone. So make sure you guys have all your formulas in this one front page notes. We will review for your finals. So the review finals is obtained. You can get it from here, or you can get it from the from your email or from D2L. So this is the review, and the key is over here. So I would recommend you not to look at your keys here. So we will look at this review for your finals, and I will tell you that your finals are very similar to these review finals that we are doing here. So make sure you guys pay attention here. This is very important. So the first question here in your review finals is saying that if there are two angles, alpha and beta, these two angles are in a second quadrant angles such that sine alpha is 5/13 and cosine beta is negative 3/5. And you have to find the exact value of such things, which is secant beta minus alpha, tangent 2 beta, and sine alpha over 2. Now, before I continue, make sure you guys understand what is the meaning of exact values. Does anyone here know what is exact value means? So you see that a lot in my tests. So what is exact value stands for? You see that a lot in my yep, you will see that there is exact value here. So mostly chapter 7 is the one that you see a lot of exact value in this case. The meaning of exact value in this case, it means that it has to be in the square root form. You cannot use calculator in this case. Okay, so example in this case is it has to be in fraction. So that means that if I ask you for what is cosine pi over 4, the exact value in this case is √2/2. But if you use your calculator and type cosine pi over 4 in your calculator, which is cosine 45 degrees, you will get 0.7071 all the decimals. This is not an exact value. So this is not the exact value. So if a question asks for exact value, we are looking for square root answers. Or fractions or something else means that I do not want you guys to give me in decimals. So if I asking for exact value and you give me your answer in decimal like this, where you use your calculator and punch it out, that will be wrong. Okay, so that is the first thing you guys need to know here. So this is a lot in chapter 7. It's used a lot in chapter 7. So the first question in this case is given us that alpha and beta is in the second quadrant. So in order for us to draw the second quadrant, make sure you guys know that your alpha or beta depends on what quadrant it is. So since this is a second quadrant, your triangle will be on this one. This is your second quadrant. So in this case, that you will need to draw two triangle. One is for alpha and one is for beta. Okay, so you do need to use SOHCAHTOA here to figure out what is your using sine alpha here. So this question is given us that sine alpha in this case is 5/13. So that means that your opposite is 5 and your hypotenuse is 13. So can someone tell me what will be your adjacent in this case?
-12.
So so if you, this is one of the most common mistakes students do is 12. 5, 12, 13 is your triplets. That will be wrong because in quadrant 2, your x-axis is negative. And do not forget, in quadrant 3, both the x and the y value is negative in quadrant 3. In quadrant 4, your x is positive, but my y is negative. So make sure you guys understand this. This is something that you need to know, and your hypotenuse is always positive, no matter it is in quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So make sure this is important because it does have what we call as a domino effects. Means if your triangles is wrong, everything after that is wrong. Okay. Same thing in this case. The question given us cosine beta in this case is -3/5. So cosine in this case is adjacent, which is -3, and your hypotenuse is 5. So you need to figure out what is your opposite. So anyone know what is the triplets for 3 and 5?
4.
This will be 4. So make sure you guys know some triplets that will help you. So in this case, since sine alpha is 5/13, can you look at this triangle and tell me what is cosine alpha is and what is tangent alpha? Same thing happens to this triangle. What is sine beta is and what is tangent beta is. Okay. Go ahead and use your SOHCAHTOA. Anyone? What is cosine alpha based on these triangles?
-12 and 13.
So it's -12/13 adjacent over by hypotenuse. And what is your tangent in this case?
5/12.
So it'll be 5 over by -12. So make sure you guys know that in quadrant 2, only sine is positive. The rest is negative. Okay. Do the same thing for beta. So since cosine beta is -3/5, can you tell me what is sine beta and tangent beta in this case? Sine beta in this case is
4/5.
and tangent beta in this case will be -3/5. Okay. Now, question, you have to do this first before you do the question A, B, C. Kelvin, yes.
Isn't it 4/-3?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're correct. 4/-3. That's what happens when I give a TET finals today and my brain is like somewhere else. So yep, it's -4/3, or again a negative, you can switch around, doesn't matter. So so this question is asking us to draw the triangles. This is how we figure out your triangles. And next we need to figure out what is secant beta minus alpha. Now we do not have formula for secant beta minus alpha, but we have formula for cosine beta minus alpha. So when you do addition and subtraction, we don't have the formula for the reciprocal, which is the secant, cosecant, and cotangent. If the question is asking you for secant, you have to find the cosine first, and then after that you flip it. Okay. So anyone know what is the formula for cosine beta minus alpha? This is very important. And if you doesn't know, yep, this will be cosine beta times with cosine alpha. Then what you have? Plus what?
Sine A, sine B, sine A.
Sine beta and sine alpha. Now this is what students do a lot in my test, so pay attention here. Oh, they think that cosine beta, cosine beta in this case is -3/5. They put -3/5 here. Oh, cosine alpha is negative 12 over 3. So they put negative 12. Is this correct to write this? Is this correct?
No, would the whole thing be negative 3 over 5?
You are correct.
Take away the
Andrew.
cosine.
This is very common. Students make mistake in my final in test here is they change all my alpha and beta to whatever value here. And then I got students also use this. Oh, secant is cos. So this cos will be secant beta times secant alpha plus, or sine will be cosecant beta and cosecant alpha. Do we have such formula for this case class?
No.
No. I was like, where you get this from? Okay, so please don't do this, and please don't put the value here, the negative 3 over 5 or the 2/3 negative. Some, don't. That is considered wrong. So please don't do this. So you do the alpha and beta that we just did here. So this should be beta, this should be alpha, this is beta, and this is alpha. So now you plug it in. So what is cosine beta in this case? Cosine beta is negative 3 over 5. This is negative 3 over 5. And cosine alpha is this, which is negative 12 over 13. Plus sine beta is 4/5. And sine alpha in this case is 5/13. And then you just multiply them, take out your calculator, multiply them straight across. You will get your answer. So this is 36 to negative become positive. So 36 over by 5 times 13 is 65. And then plus 20 over 65. So this is actually is 56 out of 65. And this is where a lot of students give me your answer here. That is not correct because the question does not ask you for cosecant. They're asking you for secant. So in this case, you have to flip this. So your answer in this case will be 65 over 56. Anyone have any questions on 1A? 1B, you need to find what is tangent to beta. The formula, anyone knows what is the formula for tangent to beta?
Tan U plus.
So
And
this is 2 tangent beta, tan U, minus over by 1
minus tangent squared beta.
Yep. So you just change the U to become beta. And again, this is multiply, and then this is square. Don't forget you square it. So again, what we do is take these triangles. We have tangent beta, and you just plug it in. So this will be 2 times negative 4 over 3 over by 1 minus negative 4 over 3 because that's tangent beta, and you square it. So everyone, please take out your calculator and figure this one out. Figure it out. Go ahead and answer here.
negative 8 over 3 divided by 25 over 9.
So it's negative 8 over 3 divided by what?
25 over 9.
25 over 9. So this will give you what?
24. We have 24 over 25.
This is this negative or no negative? That's a negative here, right? Yeah,
That's positive.
that's positive. Mm,
Divide by
this
negative
is 1 minus what? 16 over 9, right? I don't think so. You get 25 over 9 here. Anyone? This is wrong. So that's the reason why I want you guys to do it, because a lot of students calculate the problems.
-7/9.
Yes, this is -7/9. So now you need to divide this. You get what? 24 over 7. And the class, do not give me the decimal. So if you give me 3.4, whatever, you will get wrong, because I'm asking for exact value. And this is the meaning of exact value. Okay, not 3.4 something. So class, majority of stuff here is when you apply calculators. So if you're stuck, you doesn't know what do you use for your calculators, you are in a big trouble, especially if you doesn't know how to divide this. That is really not my class. So you guys know how to do the fractions here. So I'm not teaching. This is something basic. Next question C, sine alpha over 2. So in order for you to use the formula for sine alpha over 2, what is the formula for sine alpha over 2?
square root plus or minus square root 1 minus cosine u over 2.
And we don't use u, we use cosine alpha over 2 in this case, because our u in this case is alpha. So one thing you guys need to know, this is very important here, is the quadrant, the location. Where is alpha over 2 located? Okay, so how do we figure out where is this alpha over 2 is located? Is you have to use your alpha. So since we know that the question says that your alpha in this case is in quadrant 2. So since alpha is in quadrant 2 is between 90 degrees to 180. So in radian, is between pi over 2 and pi, 90 degrees and 180 degrees, which is this. And then in order for you to figure out what happens to alpha over 2, you have to divide everything here by 2. This is very important, is because this will determine what sign do we pick. Do we pick the plus or do we pick the minus? So when you do this, we will get alpha over 2 in the middle. So what we have here is pi over 4 and pi over 2. Can someone tell me where is pi over 4 and pi over 2 located? What quadrant? This is very important, class. A lot of students don't do this. They get it wrong in your test. So anyone know what quadrant is this belongs to?
Quadrant 1.
This is quadrant 1. And what happens for sine, cosine, tangent in quadrant 1? What sign we use? They're all positive. So that's the reason why that we will erase the negative here. So when you look at the formulas, although they have a plus minus, which one you pick, it's depending on what alpha over 2 lies. Okay, this is very important. So this will be one. This is positive because it is in quadrant. So this is in quadrant 1. So quadrant 1, everything is positive. So 1 minus cosine alpha over 2, cosine alpha. Cosine alpha is this one. So we're going to replace that over here. So that will become plus 12 over 13 because 2 negative become positive over 2. Now it's your time to take out your calculator and reduce this fraction inside here. Reduce this fraction inside the square root. So mostly a lot of students get wrong in the final is because of not the formulas, because they doesn't know how to reduce this kind of fractions. So do what is 1 plus 12 over 13 over by 2, and don't give me decimals, because if you give me decimals, you get all wrong. You won't get full points here because I want exact value here.
25 over 26.
Yep. Then what we do here is 25 is a perfect square of 5, so it's 5 over root 26. And if you want to rationalize, you can rationalize this. This will be 5 root 26 over 26. So make sure you guys know how to use your calculator to do this kind of fractions. And again, class, do not use your calculator to give me your answer in decimal. So if you do what is square of 25 over 26, you get point. A lot of students give me 0.98. You will get wrong. Okay. So don't forget the meaning of exact value. Anyone have any questions on the first question we have here? Anyone?
So anyways, the quadrant is what controls what the plus and minus are, right?
Yes, the alpha over 2. Where the alpha over 2 depends on this. Okay, so let's say alpha in this case is in quadrant 3, because the question will give you where alpha is. Can you tell me where is alpha over 2? What quadrant is it in? I will say alpha is in quadrant 3. So can you tell me what quadrant is alpha over 2 is?
Quadrant 2.
So quadrant 3, that means it's between what number? Between pi and what?
3 pi divided by 2.
3 pi over 2, yep. So in order for us to figure out what is alpha over 2, I have to divide everything here by 2. So what I get when I divide by 2, so alpha over 2 in this case is between pi over 2, which is 90 degrees, and 3 pi over 4, which is 125, something like that. Yep. So what quadrant is alpha over 2 belongs to? It belongs to what?
Quadrant 2.
Quadrant 2. And what happens if you are doing sine? Quadrant 2 sine is what? Still positive. Okay. But what happens if I'm doing cosine? In quadrant 2, cosine is what?
Negative.
Negative. So that's the reason why that you need to watch out here. So what this quadrant alpha over 2 belongs to, if you belong to a quadrant that is a negative, then we will use negative. If it belongs to the positive, we use a positive. Questions, anyone? All right, next question we have is to prove identity. So again, proving identity is something that you have to practice. This is something that if I just tell you how to do this, then the question will be, that will defeat the purpose of this, because in your test, I cannot tell you what is how to do this. So you have to try to do it on your own. So I want you guys to try to do question 2 on your own, how you prove sine alpha minus beta over by sine alpha cosine beta equals to 1 minus cosine 1 minus cotangent alpha tangent beta. So when you prove identity, you have to tell me, you just need to write down what side you start from. So anyone know what to do with question 2? Don't look at me in the test. I will be like, okay, I'll look back at you.
We sine A cosine B.
So
minus
we
cosine
will use the left or the right hand side in this case, Kelvin.
left.
Okay. So what can you tell me with left hand side? This can be changed into what?
Sine A times cosine B minus cosine A sine B.
So sine alpha times cosine beta, followed by what?
Cosine alpha sine B.
Cosine alpha sine beta. And this is all over by this sine alpha times cosine beta. Okay, what's next?
You get 1 minus cosine alpha over sine alpha.
How do you get that?
Sine A cancel.
How do we get? I don't know. How do you get that? Be more details. Because that's what I was asking for in your test. Be more details. Kelvin, can you tell me how you?
Be 1 minus cosine alpha over sine alpha.
How do you
So-
get 1 over?
1 minus
How do you get that?
sine alpha.
So this is a one term. What can you do with one term? You can split this into 2. So this sine alpha cosine beta, you can actually split this into 2 sides. So this and this. So when you do the first one, you find out that the sine alpha and the cosine beta, they will cancel. That's why you get the 1 here. And then this side, you still get the cosine alpha times sine beta over by sine alpha cosine beta. And what did we do next?
Cosine, the cosine over the sine will become a cotangent, and
So
the sine over the
this
cosine will become a
will
tangent.
become cotangent, and then this will become what?
Tangent.
Tangent. Yep. So that's still 1 minus. Yep. So this is the same as your right hand side. Yep. Class, again, proving identity is something that you have to learn it yourself, or you have to practice this. So a lot of students struggle in my finals on this proving identity is because they did not practice enough, or they didn't know where to start. So make sure you guys practice this. This is something that there's a lot of practice you can do. You can take out your textbook and go to 7.4 and 7.5. There will be a lot of proving identity there. So I would recommend you to start proving your identities there. How about question 3? Anyone know how to be prove this is equals to cotangent x? How do we prove this? Anyone?
To product.
I'm sorry.
Sum to product formula.
Sum to product. Yes, you have to use the STP formulas in this case. So can you tell me what is the STP for the first one? Sine 2x plus sine 4x. This is what? What's the formula says when you use a sum to product? 2 times
Sine 2x plus 4x over 2.
So u plus v, so 2x plus 4x over 2. And followed by what?
Cosine 2x minus 4x over 2.
So instead of add, this is minus. Yep. Okay, so this is the STP for the top one. Now we need to do the same thing for STP for the bottom one. So this is also getting what? -2 sine of u plus v over 2, which is 2x plus 4x over 2. And also what? Sine of 2u minus v, 2x minus 4x, all over by 2. So this will be your sum STP in this case for both of this. Now what can we cancel here? The 2 can be canceled. The sine 2x plus 4x over 2 can be canceled. So what you left in this case is cosine of what? Can someone do some math inside here? Okay, we still have a negative down here.
Negative x.
So you get net cosine of -x and sine of -x, right? And does anyone know what happens when you have a negative in the cosine?
Just get rid of it.
Yes. So that's why the negative is not. Do you guys know what happens? The negative for the sine. This negative, you have to move what? To the front. And since we got another negative, so what is negative sine -x is? This is just sine x because 2 negative become positive. And when you divide this, you will get a cotangent x because cosine over sine is cotangent, which is the same as your right hand side. So make sure you guys understand that the fundamental identities that you guys learned in chapter 7.1, the Pythagorean identity, the quotient, the reciprocal, the even odds, those are still apply here. So that's not just like, oh, I learned that, so I do not need to apply. And yes, you are gonna apply those kind of identities here. So make sure you guys applying that here. Okay. On top of it, in your finals, I also want you to know how to prove sine 3x. Remember we did this before in our class, cosine 3x or tangent 3x. Please go through 7.5 again. If you rewatch the Zoom for 7.5, how do you prove sine 3x, cosine 3x, and tangent 3x? I think we did this before in 7.5, or you can also YouTube this. This is easy to YouTube. I think the formula for sine 3x is 3 sine x minus 4 sine 3 to the power of 3. So you have to prove this. And cosine 3x is the other way around. It's 4 cosine 3x minus 3 cosine x. And the tangent 3x is a easy one. This one I think is gonna be, ooh, I do not know. I forgot what is that one is. You can always search it. That's I mean, once you type it, that will be the formula. And proving, so you can figure out tangent 3x is 3 tangent x minus tangent 3 tangent cube x. Yep, this is the formula here is 3 tangent x minus something tangent 3 cube x 1 plus something 1 minus 3 tangent square x. So please watch this, because in your finals you also get something like this to prove. So it's very easy, is you just type tangent 3x or sine 3x or cosine 3x in your search, and you're able to figure out what is the they want you to prove. I want you to prove this. I'm not asking you to put this in a piece of paper, but you need to know how to prove this. This is the main part of it. We did this already, so make sure you guys check it again. Yep. Okay, this is in 7.5. Questions? The third questions that we have here is fourth, is asking us to find the solution for this cosine 2x plus cosine x equals to 0. So anyone here know how to prove this? Not prove, solve. We're not proving here, we are solving here. You have to be between 0 to 2 pi for cosine 2x plus cosine x equals to 0. Anyone know how to prove this? Solve. We're not proving, sorry, we are solving. Anyone?
Use a double angle formula.
So about double angle formulas for cosine has 3 of them, right? So which one are we using? Both sine and cosine, just cosine, or just sine?
Just cosine.
And why we just use just the cosine here?
Because everything else is cosine.
Because this is in cosine x, okay? And if the question changed this into sine x, then you have to use what? Just the sine x. So you have to watch what the question has. So that's the reason why that for this, you are using just cosine x. And what is the formula for just cosine x? Anyone?
2 cosines squared.
Minus 1, right? So cosine 2x is 2 cosine squared minus 1 plus cosine x equals to 0. Now this is a quadratic type. You have to factor it. So before you factor it, make sure you put this in the standard form first. So 2 cosine square x plus cosine x minus 1 equals to 0. And this is factorable. So if you do it in my finals and you find out that this is not factorable, something is wrong with your identity. Let me repeat again. If you do this in my finals and find out that this cannot be factorable, please check with your identity for cosine 2x, means you did something wrong. So go ahead and factor this. And if you do not know how to factor this, you are not going to get ready to go to calculus class, the next level. This is very simple factoring. So go ahead and factor that for me. Sorry, I'm gonna go back and forth here. All right, anyone? Factor?
2 cosine x minus 1 and cosine x plus 1.
So this is 2 cosine x minus 1 and what?
Cosine x plus 1.
Cosine x plus 1. And if you want to know if this is correct, you FOIL it out. Okay. So this is the correct factor, and then you have to make this equals to 0. So this you will get cosine x equals to 1/2. And this is cosine x equals to -1. And then you move the cosine over, so it become arc. So anyone know what is the arc cosine of 1/2?
60.
So 60, don't give me 60 because this is another students make mistake. A lot of students give me 60 degrees. You won't get full points in your test. It's not 60 degrees, which is what?
Pi over 3.
And I got students do this in my test, pi over 3 plus 2n pi or 2k pi. Are you doing this class?
No.
No, because we just want one revolution. We are not doing multiples revolution. So what else beside pi over 3, 60 degrees?
5 pi over 3.
So this is your answer in this case. So please do not add 2n pi because I only need one revolution, not multiples. How about this one? Arc cosine of what? -1. Pi. Yep. So this is your answer in this case. If you doesn't know this, please make sure you use your unit circle to figure it out. Okay, these are all based on unit circle here. Next, question number 5 is asking us to use 255 degrees as 300 minus 45 degrees to find the exact value of cosine 225. So the question again asks us to find the exact value for 225. So in this case, this is going to be, so do not take out your calculator and press what is cosine 255 here. And your answer came out to be -0.2588, and you get 0 in my test. You get nothing. Okay. So what you need to do here is using this. So we know that cosine 255 is 300 degrees minus 45 degrees. And as you know that this is the difference. So what is the cosine u minus v formula is? This will be cosine 300 degrees, cosine 45 degrees. If it's a minus, this is what? Plus, yep. And then sine 300 degrees times sine 45 degrees. And again, you have to use your unit circle to figure out what is cosine 300. Anyone?
1/2.
So cosine 300, which is this fellow, you get 1/2. And cosine 45 degrees will be √2/2. And what is sine 300 degrees?
√3/2.
And sine 45 is √2/2. So now you just multiply them up. So you get √2/4 minus √6/4. And that is your answer in this case. This is the exact value that I'm looking for, not this. Questions? Right, next. Question 6. Now, question 6 is where we begin to do law of sine, law of cosine. So this means this will be chapter 8. So how do we know to use law of sine? What kind of triangles we use for law of sine? What kind of triangles?
Oblique or whatever you say.
I'm sorry?
The oblique triangle.
Yeah, they're all both oblique. So these are all oblique triangles, means you cannot use SOHCAHTOA, you cannot use Pythagorean. because they are all oblique. So what kind of triangle? Is that ASA or is that SSA or all those, you know? We got a lot of different kinds, right? So which one belongs to which? So if you have SSS triangles, means I give you all 3 sides, or SAS triangles, that means I give you 2 sides and an angle. Then that is 2 sides that has a angle that is formed for those 2 sides. This is law of cosine. But if you have SSA triangle, or you got an AAS triangles, or ASA triangles, then it is gonna be law of sine. But SSA triangle, I'm gonna put a box on it because this is an ambiguous case. And what is ambiguous case? Means that you can have what? 0, 1, or 2 triangles. So this is the one that I put a star on it, means you will get this. Now, how do you know if you get 0 triangles?
It gives you an error.
Yep, when your calculator gives you error, when you do your arc sine, you get an error, you will get no triangles. How do you know how you know the difference between 1 and 2 triangles?
It's, I think, less than 180.
So you find the sum, and if the sum is less than more than, if your sum of the 2 triangles is more than 180 degrees, then you only get 1 triangle. What happens if your sum of these 2 angles, not 2 triangles, the sum of 2 angles is less than 180 degrees, then you will get what? 2 triangles. Okay, we'll talk about this case in this question 6. So I want you guys to go ahead, draw your pictures here. And they say, first you have to tell me what law to use. And then after that, solve the triangles. If there are 2 solutions, it means 2 triangles exist. You have to find both of the triangles. So anyone know how to draw a triangle, label this into your triangles?
Be on the left hand, it would be capital A.
So if this is capital A and this is capital B, let's say, and this is capital C, again, you can switch things around, but make sure you know. Then how do you label this?
53 is angle over there.
53 is angle A, yep,
And across from the 53 is the small a.
which is 9,
And then across from the B is 10.
10. So this is how we are missing C, angle C, and angle B. Well, now, what kind of triangle we call this? SSA, AAS, ASA, SSS, SAS. What kind of triangle we call this?
Side angle.
This is a side angle because I give you 2 sides and an angle. This is an SSA. So what law are we using here? Law of sine. Yep. And don't forget, this is an ambiguous case. Means you can have what? 0, 1, or 2 triangles. So my question is, which one should we start first? Should we looking for C? Should we look for side C, or should we look for angle B?
Angle B.
Angle B. Now, don't forget, class, chapter 8 onwards, make sure you set your calculator to degree mode. This is also another thing I found out a lot of students do wrong in my test is the mode. The first few questions, yes, your mode can be degree or your mode can be radian, depends on the question, right? If you see this radian, if you see this degree, but anything after this, make sure that your mode is always in degree, because if you still your mode in your calculator is still in radian, no matter what you did, it's all gonna be wrong. Okay, I have students forget to change the mode. Okay, so how do you find B, angle B? Using law of sine.
Sine 53 over 9 is equal to sine B over 10.
So sine 53 over 9 is equals to sine B over 10. Yep. So go ahead, take out your calculators. Everyone here, please do it. Because in your finals, if you get these questions and you ask me, I will look at you and I say, I don't know what you're doing. All right, go ahead and find B for me, angle B.
62.54.
So you get 52.54,
60.
62. Make sure you guys know how to do this. Don't just depends on my key, because in your finals, there's no key. So this is now you need to find, because in sine it is positive in quadrant 1. Sine is also positive in quadrant 2. So what is the second quadrant for 62.54? So we like to label this as B1 and B2, first and second triangles. So B2 in this case will be what? 117.45.
17.45. 46, sorry, wrong.
Okay, so this because it is a supplement, so when you add this it will be 180. But now the main point is, do we have 1 or 2 triangles? Anyone? When I say sum the 2 angles, which angles are we talking about? Which 2 angles we talking about? There's so many angles here. We're talking about this angle with which one? With the one given to us. So these are the 2 angles we always talking about. So when I ask for sum 2, means you're summing the B2, the one that is a supplement of that, and the angles given to us in this case. So class, when you add this, can you tell me, is that more than or less than 180 degrees?
Less than
So that means this fellow has how many triangles?
2.
2 triangles. So this is how you figure out 1 or 2 or 0 triangles. 0 means when you do this, you get error in your calculator. For 2 or 1, you need to take these 2 triangles and add up, and you have to figure out, are they more than or less than? If they're more than, that means then you do not need to do B2, because you only get 1 triangles. But if it's less than 180, then you will get 2 triangles at this case. So once you find out you got 2 triangles, you have to do how to find C. Anyone know how to find C1? Again, the sum of all these angles is what?
180.
180. So you just need to add. You need to add the 53 with 62.54 and subtract it from 180.
64.46.
And then you find what is C1, the side C1. And in order for you to find the side C1, can you use Pythagorean to find C1 here, the side?
No.
No, again, it's not a right triangle, it's an oblique triangle. So you still have to use the law of sine. Now, do not forget, if I want you to find angles, the sine was on top. But if I want you to find the side, then the numbers will switch around. So we will be using 9 over sine 53 equals to C1 over by sine 64.46. So you will find what is C1 in this case. What is, multiply it, and your C1 in this case will be what?
10.17.
And then you'd repeat the same thing for the second triangles. You find what is C2. So you take 180 subtracted from these 2 angles, 117.46 and 53. You will get your C2. It's like 20 some. Or is it less than 20?
19.54.
19.54. And then you do the same thing to find C2. So at the side C2, you just take 9 over sine 53
9.5.
And C2 equals divided by sine of this 19.54 that you guys got. And C2 in this case is what?
1.87. It's actually 9.54 instead of 19.
Oh, this is 9. Okay. So class, it does have a domino effect, means that if you start something wrong, everything is gonna be wrong. But you won't get 0 as long as I look at your work. But if you leave it blank in your test, you will get 0 for sure. But if you did some work and you make a little minor mistake here, or you round wrong, or something is wrong, I probably will take 1 point off. So make sure you guys read the question really carefully, how, especially like this kind of questions. So practice, make sure. Practice, practice, practice. Anyone have any questions with this law of sine and law of cosine? Question 7. It's gonna cost 30 cents per square yard to mow a lawn. And let's say how much does it cost to mow a triangular lawn that have the side length of 37, 45, and 22 yards. So in question 7 is also given us a triangle, and this triangle is not right triangle, is oblique, and it's given us by the 37, 45, and 22. So 37, 45, and 22. And it's gonna cost how many cents? 30 cents per square yard to mow the lawn. So the question is, how much does it cost me to mow this triangular lawn? So anyone know what to do with this question?
Add them all up and divide by 2.
So we have to find the area, and a lot of students will use law of sine or law of cosine to figure out what is the angle and then do all this. No, because this is actually a Heron's area formulas. And based on the Heron's area formula, the formula is S is you add all the 3 sides, 37 plus 22 plus 45, and you will have to divide this by 2. And then the areas, the formula says in order for you to find the area, you take the S times S minus A times S minus B, and times S minus C. So you just figure out what is this, and then you plug, then you take this minus 37, minus 22, minus 45, all multiply it. So what is 37 plus 22 plus 45 all divided by 2 here?
52.
Now what you do is pretty much simple, right? 52 times 52 take away 37 times 52 take away 45, doesn't matter which is ABC, and 52 take away 22. So one is 30, 52 take away 37 is 15, right? And 52 take away 45 is 7. So take a square, multiply all these numbers and take a square of it, and your answer is in square yard. And don't forget, because they want you to find what is the cost, so you just need to multiply this by 30 cents. Square behavior in calculators, and that will be your answer here. Questions? Anyone have any questions? And you can finish this, but I think you guys can use your calculator to do this. It's not that difficult. Anyone have questions? 6 and 7? 8. For question number 8, is given us by the 3 vectors here. Vector V in this case, I'm gonna squeeze this a little bit smaller so I can see both of these. So vector V is given us by in a component form 1, 4. Vector W is given us by the component form of 6, negative 10. And vector Z is given us by the component form of 5, 3. And the first question here is asking us to find what is the unit vector for W. Does anyone remember how you find a unit vector? So in order for us to find a unit vector, the formula is what? That vector that we're using over by its magnitude. That's it. So the vector W in this case is 6, negative 10 over by its magnitude. Magnitude is the square root of the first component square, which is 36, plus square of the second component. Don't forget, when you square a negative, this is 100. So this is square root of 136. So your answer in this case will be just divide this. So it will be 6 over by root 136. Negative 10 over by root 136. This is what we call as a unit vector. Questions? B, you need to find 3z minus v plus 2w. So 3z means you take the vector z and then you multiply this by 3. So what you get? It will be 15 and 9. Now you have to minus vector v. So when you minus, this negative will distribute to inside. So this will become plus now. So everything is positive, because a lot of students tend to make mistakes here when they. So when this negative has to distribute to vector v, so you get negative 1 and negative 4. Plus 2w. So again, you have to take this vector and multiply it by 2. So you will get 12 and negative 20. And then what you need to do next here is easy. You just simply add the first component and add the second component. So 15 minus 1 plus 12, 26. 9 minus 4, which is 5. 5 minus 20 is negative 15. So this is your answer. Pretty much straightforward type. Question C is asking for which two vectors are orthogonal. So in order for us to figure out which two vectors are orthogonal, you have to do the dot, and the dot of those vectors has to be 0. So first thing is you have to dot, see if vector v dot with vector w is at 0 or not. So dot means you take the first component and you multiply. 1 times 6 is 6. 4, then you plus 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. So we know this is not orthogonal because it's not 0. Okay. And then you do the w v and z. So you can do v and z, dot it and see, and then you do w and z and c. So this is how you figure out, and your vector, your dot has to be 0. So v and z, when you multiply, 1 times 5 is 5, plus 4 times 3 is 12. This is 17, so this is not orthogonal. W and z, so we take 6 times 5, which is 30, plus negative 10 plus 3, which is negative 30 times 3. So this is 0. So this is orthogonal. So this is how we figure out which two vectors are orthogonal. You just simply take 2 of these vectors and you multiply it. And the last one is you have to find what is the angle for V between angle vector V and vector W. So in order for us to figure out what is how you find the angle, you have to know the formula. The formula in this case is cosine theta equals to the dot product of the two vectors that we're looking for, in this case in V and W. And then you have to find what is the magnitude of V and the magnitude of W. Now we did V dot W, which is in part C. The V dot W in this case is -36. Okay, and we also did the magnitude of W in part A. The magnitude of W is square root of 136. So now we need to figure out what is the magnitude of V. So this is V. So magnitude in this case is the square root of A squared plus B squared. So 1 plus 16 because you square it. So this is 17. Okay. And then after that, change. And then once you use your calculator, figure this follow out. And then after that, do the arc cosine. And don't forget, this is all in degree again. So look at your mode. So I want everyone, please take out your calculator and do this now. This is again something that class, what I'm talking about here is not just formulas that you have to know or how to apply it. Also make sure you know how to use your calculator to do this kind of questions. So your finals consist of formulas and calculators work. So if you do not get these kind of answers, you're going to be in big trouble. Yep, start taking out your calculators and don't forget, it's all in degree here, not radian. Anyone got an answer here? So you can actually put these two together to become square root of 17 times 136. Because they all have a same index, they're all both square root. So you can actually do square root of 17 times 136. Anyone got an answer here?
41.52.
No.
138.47.
That's the reason why that I am gonna see you guys really please practice this. 40, I don't know how you get, maybe you forgot the negative here, Gamal. Okay, so if you get a 40 something because maybe you forget your negative, that I can think of. So class, please make sure you know you make sure you know how to use your calculator here. Questions on number 8? Next, question 9. So question 9 is given us by this. You got two forces, force U and force V, and force U is 80 newtons and force V is 100 newtons, and they are acted on the hook at the origin. So that means the hook is right over at this origin 0, 0. And the angle for vector U is 18 degrees, and the angle for vector V is 214 degrees. This question wants you to find the directions and the magnitude of the resulting of this force. Okay, so first you have to find what is the resulting force first, then you find the direction and magnitude. Okay, so before you find resulting force means you have to put vector U and V in a component form. So how do we make vector U and vector V in a component form? In this case is you use this formula. U in this case is the radius or the the magnitude, the magnitude times cosine theta, and the magnitude of u sine theta. Don't forget, this is very similar to your unit circle where your x is cosine and your y is sine, but you just need to multiply with this magnitude. Same thing with vector v, you just do the vector v cosine theta, but don't forget this theta is for u and this theta is for v. So because they got two different vectors here. And then for the second component is magnitude of v times the sine theta v. So you just read this question and they will tell you what is the magnitude of u. Magnitude of u is 80. And the theta u is 18 degrees. So take out your calculator and I want you guys to type what is 80 times cosine 18 degrees. That will be the first one. And 80 times sine 18 degrees. That will be the second one. $80 times cosine 18. This is 76.08. And then 80 times sine 18. This is 24.72. And then for the vector v, the magnitude is 100. And the theta is 214 degrees. So you do the same thing for the vector v. You just take 100 times cosine 214 and 100 times sine 214. So 100 times cosine 214, I do the sine first, is negative 55.9992. And then I do the cosine, just type in wrong. That will be negative 82.90. Now what we need to do is to resulting force. Find the resulting force. So resulting means you take these two vectors and you add them. So what you do is just take these two and add. Take these two and add, and that will give you the resulting of it. So take 76.08 plus negative 82.90, and you will get negative 6.82. And then you add this one too, 24.72 plus with a negative 55.92. Oops. So very heavy on calculators on this, negative 31.2. So this is what we call as your resulting force. So this question wants us to find what is the direction and magnitude. We can find the magnitude first. So the magnitude of this is you just take your first component and you square it. And you take your second component and you square it. And you take the square of it. So this is the magnitude of it. You can use your calculator. Go ahead and figure this one out, class. So in order for you to find the magnitudes, you take the first component square plus the second component square, always plus, and then you take the square of it. Anyone go ahead and answer?
Square root of 1019.95.
So so what you get when you square all these things?
31.93.
So your answer is 31.93 or 94. I'm not picky like your online homework. If you give me 93 or 94, I'm fine with it. Now, this is a magnitude. So the question also asks for direction. So in order for us to do the direction, is tangent theta, always tangent theta. It's like your unit circle. Remember, tangent is always y or sine over cosine or y over x. So this is your y, which is negative 31.2. And this is your x, negative 6.82. So don't forget, this is very similar to your unit circle. So we use this your x and y as we use x and y. So tangent is y over x. So we use that. So when you move the tangent over here, you become arctangent. So please also use your calculator to find me what is the direction here. And you will get a common mistake students do in my test here. So this came out to be what? In degrees. You will get 77.67 degrees. If you report this in your test, in my test, I will mark it wrong. You won't get full points. Does anyone here know why I marked this question wrong?
You have to add 180.
Okay. How do you know we're going to add 180 or not? How do we know? This
Those
is
are in quadrant 3.
yes, because the if you look at this, if you draw it out, this is actually both x and y are negative. This is in quadrant 3. But this 77.67 is in quadrant 1. So for me to make it back to quadrant 3, I have to add what? 180 degrees. So that is the correct answer once you add 180. So your answer in this case is 257.67 degrees. So make sure you guys know that what quadrant is this person, if this direction lies. And a lot of students make mistake here is they just give me this 77.67. So this is very important. So make sure you guys know where is the resulting of the vectors lies. Where is this u plus v lie? Since it's in quadrant 3, make sure then your answer must be in quadrant 3, not in quadrant other quadrants. Questions? Anyone have any question number 9 before we do the last one? All right, for question 10, you need to find the complex cube root. Given that z in this case will be negative 2 root 3 plus 4i. And I want to write this root in a trigonometric form, which is RCIS form. And your theta in this case is 0 to 360. We're not using radian, we're using degree here. So the first thing we need to do for this kind of question is to write this in a trigonometric form. So first, figure out what quadrant is this negative 2 root 3 plus 4i at. What quadrant? So negative 2 root 3 is here. And don't forget, this is your this is your real, this is your imaginary. So this is actually in quadrant what? 2. And you have to find what is your R first. You guys remember how you find your modulus? It's like a distance. So you take the first one and you square it. And plus you take the I and square it. You just ignore the I. Just so anyone know what is the square of the negative 2√3 here? This is 16. Yep, this is 12. Because negative 2 square is 4. This will cancel, become 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. So this is actually is square root of 28. Okay, this is 16. So 12 plus 16 is 28. If you want, you can put 2√7. Not picky about that. Okay, so this is how you find the R. Next, you need to find theta. So in order for you to find theta, again, we use the tangent. So we do arctangent of the top one, which is 4 over by again, this is x and y, so y over x, negative 2√3. So take out your calculator, and I want you guys to figure out what is this theta is, where your top is y over x, so 4 over negative 2√3. Anyone?
$49.12.
Is negative 49.11 degrees or 1, 2. I'm not picky about this one, but make sure you have a negative. If you don't have a negative, check your calculator, because maybe you forget to put a negative in the 2√3 here. Now, again, this is, if you write this is wrong. Again, why this is wrong?
I have to add 180.
Because this is in quadrant 4. Okay, so this is negative 49 degrees. But this fellow is in quadrant 2, so we have to do what?
Add 3.
At 180, not 360. Okay, so make sure you add 180, because if you want to go from 4 to 2, you add 180. So what is your angle in this case? Is what? 130.89 degrees. So this in a trigonometric form is going to be z is √28 CIS 130.89. So this is your trigonometric form. And we are not done yet. This is just the starting point. So now we need to find what is the cube root of this. So in order for us to find the cube root, you have to use the formula where zk in this case is n√r CIS theta plus 360 degrees K over n. And if you want this in radian, you just change the 360 to become 2 pi. Okay. But we want the degree, so we use 360. So what we do is, since we want to find the cube root in this case, n is 3. So you plug n is 3, and you plug r in this case is square root of 28. And you plug theta is 130.89, all inside this formula. So I will get cube root of r. R in this case is a square root of 28. CIS theta in this case is this 130.89 plus 360 degrees K all over by 3. Don't forget your n in this case is 3 because it's a cube root they answer for. If a question asking for fourth root, n is 4, fifth root 5. Okay, so this is your zk, so we can reduce this. Now when you have this, you can multiply your index. So this is 3 and this is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So this is a 6th root of 28. CIS. And then you divide. Take 130.89 divided by 3. That will become 43.63. And then you also divide the 360 by 3, you get 120K. Okay, now this 120K is very important. That means that it's telling us we will keep on adding 120 for every K you increase. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is when K is 0. So it's Z0, so you will get the 6th root of 28. CIS 43.63 because our K is 0, so we do not need to add anything. When K is 1, Z1 in this case will be the 6th root of 28. CIS. Now you will take this 43.63 plus 120. Okay, so take that plus 120. You will get 163.63 degrees. And then you do one more time when K is 2. Z2 in this case is the 6th root of 28. CIS, and again, in order for me to find this, you just add another 120. So this 120 is very important because this is done by taking 360 divided by 3 here. So that will become 283.63 degrees. So these are your answers. So when if you want to find the cube root, you will have 3 answers. That's why you start with 0, 1, and 2. If you're asking for 4th root, you will have 4 answers. You put K is 0, 1, 2, 3, and then so on, so on. So this is how we do the last question, question 10. Again, class, in your finals, I got around 10 to 12 questions. These are the core 10 questions. There are still 2 more questions is not in this finals. So it's not that difficult. If you know how to do these 10 questions, you probably know how to do almost 85 to 90% of your test already. So the other 2 is something that is not in here, but is in your homework or in my notes. And the proving identity is something that I cannot teach you because you have to practice it. So I would recommend you to go to your 7.4 and 7.5 book textbook and practice that. This is something that I cannot teach you. Okay, so that's the answer for question 10. Does anyone have any? This is the end for today's review. Does anyone have any questions for me?
So K is always just 1 less than N?
Yes, you're correct. K is all in this question. K is always 1 less than N. So, but you had to do 0 if in this case 2, but you have to do 0, 1, and 2. Okay. Questions? Yep, this is the formula you have to use for him. Okay. If you have no questions, you may go. If you have questions, do stay. Okay. That's the end for today's Zoom. I will post this definitely in D2L. Yeah, in D2L. Anyone have any questions?